How will you contribute to the world today in a way that only you can? Ponder that question as you dive into today's episode of the Leap Beyond Success podcast with Micheline Nader. Every episode is designed to help you lean into your passion, execute from your purpose, align your mindset, and program your emotions so that you can leap into the world and show up as who you want to be in the world for yourself and for whoever you choose to serve. Let's dive in and evolve together. Enjoy the conversation. Hello there, and welcome back to the Leap Beyond Success podcast with Micheline Nader. I am your guest host, Trace Haskins, once again, and I'm excited to be here with Micheline. And today we're talking about a really interesting and critical topic. It's called escaping this thing called a dream trap. And it could be something that is holding you back. So it's really interesting to dive into this because I feel like this is something that all of us as human beings face. And once again, with the Leap Beyond Success podcast, we're also always thinking in the context of how are we leading not only our own lives, but our teams or organizations and whatever other levels we might be working at within society. So how are dream traps holding you back? This is a really interesting question. And I'm excited to see, Micheline, what you have to say about it. So thank you for being here with us once again and talking about this thing called a dream trap.
Thank you, Trace. I'm excited also to have this discussion with you. It's always synergetic. I love it. And also, I love what the impact that it has on our audience and their needs. And so excited to talk about it today with you.
Amazing. So one of my favorite quotes is, "You can't escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one." And I think it was Vernon Howard that said that. A lot of people don't know that they're even in a dream trap, and they might not even know what a dream trap is. So could you give us your definition of a dream trap? And could you answer the question of how do you know if you're even in one?
It's pretty simple. It is when you have a dream and you can never get there. It seems like whatever you do, the same thing happens again. You change jobs and the same scenario occurs, although the job is different, but then the way you left or the primary complaint you had about the previous job is also persistent here. You change relationships and the same thing happens again. And then you seem like as if you're in a nightmare and you can't you keep repeating the same thing. It's just a pattern. It could be disguised into different forms. This is a different job, a different boss, a different CEO, a different someone, a different board, different investors. It could be a different wife, a more beautiful one, a younger one, an older one, a more mature one. Yet you have the same thing happen and happens and happens again. So unconsciously, you don't know that you're in a dream trap, but consciously what you know is the results of what's happening in your life. There is a certain pattern that repeats itself and you feel as if you're stuck in it. And I've seen the most intelligent people, those who were like Ivy League graduates, would tell me that we don't know what happened, but this happened again, this happened again, and this happened again. And also, you see people who had a dream and never got to that dream. It's like one day, someday, it will happen. This is where you know that there is a dream trap, a trap catching that dream and preventing you from going further and attaining that dream of yours.
Very interesting. For those of you listening in our audience, we're glad that you're here. And if this is resonating with you, if you feel like I'm there right now, or I've definitely been there, we'd love to hear you mention in the comments. I know this is interactive between Micheline and myself right now, but you're here. You can be an active part of this too, because we'll look at what you say here and we'll talk about it in future episodes. So feel free to leave your comments like, yes, I feel like I'm in a dream trap right now, or oh, yeah, I've totally been there. And if you want to share even a little story, it's great because it could help someone. But so, how do we really make this thing as a dream trap rather than just like a perpetual streak of bad luck? Like, what is the real difference between, like, how do we know? Like, how can we, without a shadow of a doubt, know, like, oh, we're in a dream trap? It sounds like it's because there's this persistent pattern that keeps reoccurring. So it reminds me of the quote that says, "Wherever you go, there you are." Right. So I guess, is it always that if you notice a pattern from job to job or relationship to relationship, is it always really an internal thing that we're like, we've got this dream track that we just keep dragging with us like baggage? Is it always like that?
So let me tell you, I myself don't believe in a series of bad luck. I believe in a series of things happening outside of your hands, totally outside of your control. Yes. And sometimes we get a series of those. Sometimes for me, like it depends what I believe in, but it's a series of probably three things happening out of control that you have no control over. Now, the dream trap is when you had something in it because it's your job. It's a pattern of behavior that repeated itself, although probably you didn't acknowledge to yourself that it was your own doing. And it's a recognition of a certain pattern of behavior. And it's at first it's unconscious unless you stop whenever two consecutive things happen to you that have the same pattern of results or outcome, or you catch yourself saying the same thing about it, and you stop and you say, okay, let me see here. Do I recognize a pattern within me? It's very hard for some people to stop and think even that there is a pattern here, because what goes into their mind is that, okay, this is the blame game. I'm blaming myself, and I know that so many people have blamed me, or there's something inside of me that is already there, that is nagging, that is a negative, belief about who I am, what I can, I can't, a form of not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. It's always there. It's always there when your dream is caught in a trap. It's always there. Always something. And to stop and say, what is it that I did that created this outcome? Even if the company was downsizing, what is it that I myself created to cause this outcome? And this is where we shift the blame from the circumstances outside of you to circumstances that you have created. But it's not because you wanted to create them, it's unconsciously created them, and you're not aware of them. And this is where empowerment happens. When we start realizing that it's not happening for no reason there. It is happening because there is something causing it to happen, but we're not aware of it.
Got it. Okay. So, can you give us an example from either your personal life or your professional career where you realized you had this aha moment of something recurring and there being a dream trap that you were in, and then you kind of had this aha flashlight shining in the dark, right? Do you have any stories from your own life that you want to share with us?
And definitely, of course, from my own life and from the people I coached, I have multiple stories. So I'll tell you one about myself and someone from, a, uh, a client of mine that I had coached, professional client, executive client that I've coached for a bit. In my personal life, I learned this lesson very early, you know. When I learned that what happened was at the age of 23, and I say it in my book, Deep Beyond Success, that at the age of 23, as I graduated college and I was on my way to do my residency at an Ivy League school, also, that I got this job offer from my university to get a job, and that job would be considered as residency from the American Hospital of Beirut, that I would be the assistant director, and that will count for my residency for hospital administration degree, master's in hospital administration. And I was like, I can't do it. And it's true. I was not equipped with the skills, enough skills to be able to do it, right? It's not totally wrong. But then what I did it anyway. Not knowing that there was something behind, in my subconscious saying you can't do it. And this is where probably I failed some things, and I'd say my first failures of recognizing, the importance of the medical body or how to communicate with them, of lack of experience. I failed and I learned from my failure, but then like few failures along the way and how I became great at it. But then when I moved to Paris and I got a famous, like great offer to be, the first consultant to create the ambulatory care operating room, the first of its kind, I stopped again. And I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I have something within me saying, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. You can't do it. And then I did it anyway. And at first it was very hard, but then I did it. At the same time, like every time I had to stretch myself beyond, I have this, no, you can't do it. And I did it. So I learned very early in life that whenever I hear that voice, you can't do it, go and do it anyway. And my life was not easy doing it anyway. And I did not know that voice was an unconscious voice. But I knew that it was an impulse. To tell you the truth, it was like I would decide that I'm going to meet with this director and tell him, no, I can't do it. And this is what I've done twice. The first time at the American University of Beirut, I went to meet the director and tried to convince him that I was not the right person for that position. And he said, we're willing to take a bet on you. I did it the same way at the American Hospital of Paris. I went, at the meeting, they had this job offer, they had the, I needed to sign the contract. And I went and I told them, I don't have experience in this and I'm not the right person for you. And here the director tells me, but no one has experience in this. This is a new Joint Commission for Accreditation program. No one has experience, and we will help you and we'll support you. So I would go back and I would say, I would be freaking out that I'm sure I can't do it. And people saw in me something that I didn't see in myself. And I don't know what they saw. And to the point where, I would wake up at night so anxious, knowing that I couldn't do it. Then I would push myself and I would do it. Even when I went into long-term care. I moved to Canada and I was interviewed by the chair of McGill University doctor on Alzheimer's disease. And I remember Dr. Gaultier saying, "You're the right person for us." And I was in my head like, I don't know, I'm bluffing. I had this in my head all the time. I'm bluffing. I can't be the right person for them. I'm coming from hospital administration, and here Dr. Gaultier is telling me you will be perfect to start this innovative programs for Alzheimer's patients and create this nursing home from scratch. And I was in my head like, I don't know what a nursing home is. How can I do that? And he said, you would be perfect. I went home. I got the job. I wanted and I needed a job. And I was like convinced that I was not the right person for them. And I would stay up all night. And then something comes to me. Oh, why don't we create a permanent residence for these patients? And they stop being patients and they become residents. And I remember when I went to the interview, they were getting, a stretcher with a number bag because they're McGill they're teaching associated with a teaching hospital. And I was like, why are we doing this? If these residents are permanent there and we're doing programs for them. And the fact of not knowing actually and being able to innovate is a good thing. I discovered. I did not know that. I removed the ambo bag, the stretcher, and I said, let's innovate. Let's get dancing in here. Let's do artwork. And this is where the music therapy and the art therapy and all the innovation helped the multidisciplinary team that, created out of not knowing. So not knowing is a good thing, but we don't know because back within the not knowing, there was something else telling me you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. But the more you push yourself to do it and to do it and to succeed, and the more you get little wins, then you start developing a certain self-confidence that overrules whatever your inner voice is telling you can't do it. Until now, like, I go to give a big lecture and you can do it, something. Oh, of course you can. Remember what happened in the past. Remember, So now it's a different pattern that developed itself. So that's my own story. Another story from a person that I coached, and she became a dear friend, actually very successful, broker, who really did very well, if you want, economically speaking, to herself and to I was going to say patients, to
They're kind
her
of like
clients.
patients too in the real estate market.
And that's when you have to rewire, okay, with your brain, and to get into the story and the narrative of that person, and put her in front of me now that I'm talking to you about her. One day we were having lunch together, and I said, what is your dream? Because we're talking here about the dream trap, right? What is your dream? She said, my first job, I used to love what I was doing. I said, well, what were you doing? She said, we were creating educational toys for kids. And that was my passion. And I was so successful at it. And I wanted so badly to get to that vice president title. It was her first job, and she was doing so great. And you know what? I got it. But, and I said, what happened? She said, I didn't take it. I said, why you didn't take it? And she said, because I didn't think I could do it. I said, why is that? Since you loved it and you were so good at it, how come you can't do it? She said, because I told myself that one day I'm going to marry and I will have kids. And within the job, I have to travel a lot, so I'm not going to take it. And I said, okay, you didn't take that job. Were you in a relationship? And she said, no. Were you intending to get married? She said, one day, someday. That was at a time where she was in her late 20s. And this person is now 58, something like that. She has never married. She has never married. And she still regrets that job despite her success and what she's doing. So I invited her then to see if there is something, even at that age, that is sabotaging her from success, because she came to me saying, despite my success, I'm not fulfilled, I'm not happy, I don't know what I'm doing. And here I wanted to invite her to stop and see what is it inside herself that is telling her that she's not enough of. What is trapping her dream? And sure enough, through the work of Leap, she was able to discover very easily, like once you point sometimes people into the right direction and tell them, look, you invite them to see that there is a pattern here, then she saw that within herself, she considered herself, she had this voice saying that she's not good enough. So whatever she was doing, she thought that she was not doing it up to standards that would qualify as good. I mean, you could imagine now that something would have happened in her childhood. Maybe she had a severe, one of the parents or teacher or someone who kept telling her, no, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. That you say to yourself, not good enough. I mean, all of us, we have a form of not good enough back in our voice, back in our mind, like something, the voice is telling us that we're not good enough at something, or a form, distorted form of not good enough. I can't do it. I'm not lovable. I'm not this. I'm not good enough to be loved. I'm not, like a form of not good enough. And all this comes from back in the days in our childhood. Something happened. Either we told ourselves that we're not good enough because we're not doing it well, or someone told us that we're not good enough, and we believed that. And that belief became unconscious. So we're not aware of what's leading us there or what's stopping our dream from getting realized and keeping that dream trapped somewhere. So now, when she realized this, now she understood that the form of what she's doing was not important to her. What was important to her when she was young was to make a difference in the life of kids and educate them. So here, she found a new mission. I mean, it was probably always her mission, but she wasn't aware of it in life. But she has a vision for her real estate, and finding the houses for the people is now to make them happy. And she was doing this. She wasn't aware that that was her mission, to make people happy. And that what struck me in her. So I worked with her on my own, housing needs. And what always struck me in her was her deep integrity. Like she would tell me, even if the contract was about to be signed on something, she would tell me, no, I don't feel that you're happy with that. So this is what was behind it. And that's why we go back. And I know what you're going to ask me, so I'm going to stop here and let you ask me whatever you want me to take this, and wherever you want me to take this discussion together, because what you're asking me is also what our audience wants to hear, right?
I want to take it wherever you want to take it, wherever it goes naturally, actually. But there's a lot of great stuff in there that you just shared. I hope everybody's like really taking the gold nuggets there, because The recurring theme is, as you pointed out, the root of the dream trap is always this negative narrative about yourself, right? It's always like, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, whatever. Something of that nature is pretty much always at the core. And that's the interesting thing. If you, like, we have a tendency to think that it's something outside of us that is denying this opportunity, but it's really, it's this narrative that we have going on inside. So that's super valuable. I love, I'm going to say how you say it, Micheline, good news, bad news, right? In your story, good news, you had people who believed in you and they were pulling you along, even though you were kind of metaphorically kicking and screaming, like, no, I'm not the one, I can't do this, right? So that was the good news. But the bad news is you were torturing the heck out of yourself the whole time, right? Because you were still having this dialogue inside saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, what am I doing here, right? That sort of thing. So good news, bad news. You had like couple things going on for you there. But the beautiful thing is that one way or another you persisted and you started to realize that you could do it. So your confidence started to grow from experience, right? So if there's one big takeaway that I'm hearing from you for all of our listeners, is that like even if you're scared or you think you're not worthy or whatever, that's just a narrative. Do it anyway. Because what's the worst that can happen, right? You might fail and then you learn something and then you go on to the next thing, right? So just do it, right? Is that fair to say? Like with every dream trap, like with every narrative, would that be your advice to people? Is just do it anyway? Just go for it?
Well, if what's stopping you is that voice that you're not good enough, yes, because in stretching yourself, in stretching your mind, this is how you start believing in yourself. This is how you override that program that is in your internal operating system. And because you see, some people like to go through the transformation process, and and that's the easiest, like that's the simplest way, not the easiest way. The simplest way is, okay, stop, become aware of what's stopping you, work on that program, transform it, shift it, and move on. Sometimes we're in need of a job. Like when I was looking for a job, I was needing a job, for different reasons. It could be financial, it could be psychological, it could be whatever. For different reasons. It could be a prerequisite to get into your next program. It could be, you're needing that. If despite all this need, that voice stopped you, definitely do it anyway. And stretching your ability, this is how you build your self-confidence and you override that program. There is a great value to become aware of it. And that's why we're talking today. Because you need, in a way, to recognize the signs of your dream trap. If it's happening, it's recurring, there is a need for us to stop and say, okay, what's happening here? What's happening? And pattern recognition is essential, especially for us leaders. And I know a lot of the new generation now is lacking pattern recognition because they're a lot doing that passive entertainment on, their iPad, watching all kinds of things that is feeding into recognizing things for them instead of
Yeah.
pushing them into recognizing the patterns themselves. So patterns recognition in yourself within what's happening to you has a great value. This is half of the transformation. You know that, okay, I'm doing this to myself. Okay, how can I deal with it? Now, if you ask the question, first, if you become aware that this is what's happening within you, and you ask yourself the question, how can I deal with it? Then you're gonna find a way. Of course, we have tools in the books that I wrote. These are tools like one can apply and it can help. There are workshops in Leap Beyond Success or the Dolphins Dance that would help definitely shift and transform the dream trap. But there are multiple ways other than this that you will attract to you once you ask the question about it. So this is absolutely incredibly important. And very many times along with this comes the justification. The internal saboteur in us will tell us you will fail if you do that. This is where we start cultivating a mindset of failure. And so it's interesting because I was talking to someone, an executive in a big company, and I don't want to give that the name of the company away because I don't know if they want to share their secret. The new secret is to cultivate a failure mindset. Do you believe this? Like everybody, like, okay, a success mindset. And why is that? Because in the age of disruption and AI, you want people to innovate and generate new ideas. You want them, it doesn't matter to fail. So this company has started rewarding failure, not any failure, not if you fail the rules or the laws or the policies, but failure of
Yeah.
trying. And what they did, they have different branches all over the world. They started not sharing the innovation they find in one of their branches with other branches. Why? To allow different innovation to spark from everywhere. They're preparing themselves for the rapid, speedy disruption that we're in today, right? And so this is when I say maybe we have to cultivate that. Maybe as a humanness, we have to cultivate some qualities of our humanness in order to deal with this disruption. And this is one of them. So instead of having this fear of failure, look forward to that failure and what you're going to learn from it, you know, in order to change your mindset. And if you're an entrepreneur and a leader and a CEO, reward this type of failure. The failure coming from an innovation or from trying something new that you did not try, it failed. It's fine. That's how you keep innovating and you keep changing and you keep transforming and you keep that.
I love that. Yeah, I know Denzel Washington talks about failing forward. I'm not sure if he's the one who coined that phrase or not, but yeah, it's so powerful. That's really
Yeah.
interesting what that organization is doing with really training all the team members and leaders to like look for the failure, go for it, like just fail as fast as you can because we're going to make progress that way, right? So it's definitely a mindset shift, and hopefully that'll help remove the fear for a lot of people. It makes me think of one of the quotes I'm sure you've heard before, Micheline. There's two things in life that are certain: death and taxes, right? We're going to die one day, so we may as well take some chances and try to have some fun and learn some things and advance forward. So that's really great. I think that's a really big tip for everyone listening is to just embrace the failure, because failure is going to come, and you may as well do it, especially if it's in alignment with what you really want to be doing in your life. Just go for it, and whatever narrative is inside of you that's saying you're not good enough or whatever, don't believe every thought you think, right? It's really important to set that aside, even if you have evidence that supports it, even if other people are even agreeing with you. Like, your past is only one little snapshot of a potential reality, right? So that's so good. Micheline, you briefly mentioned tools that you have inside Micheline's book, Leap Beyond Success. If you like reading, or if you like to listen to audiobooks, there's an incredible audiobook version. You can get your copies of those. Or if you prefer to learn in more of an interactive format, online video classes and things like that, there's also some Leap Beyond Success, Leap and Evolve classes that are available too. So just saying, if you find yourself in a dream trap, even despite this conversation, you have a much heightened level of awareness now. But it's really helpful to have help and have somebody help pull you out of things and help raise your awareness further. So that's what Micheline's book can do for you. That's what the online course can do as well. So I encourage you to check that out. And if you're listening on YouTube or other platforms, you'll find links to those things below. Great tools there. Micheline, you mentioned briefly, but just want to make sure everybody knows that they're there. And there's a specific tool about dream traps, but there's also tools for reframing narratives and all sorts of things that are really, really, really important. So thank you, Micheline, for creating these incredible tools and for this conversation today as well. I have an interesting question for you because we were just talking about embracing failure and stepping forward into failure and kind of using it as a model. Is there ever value to be found in the dream trap itself?
There is a value in everything, That's the law of chemistry, right? Nothing is lost. Everything is recreating itself. So do I wish that people have a dream trap to for them to grow? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there is a value when they recognize that they're in a dream trap because it's forcing them to change and transform their behavior. Because oftentimes when your dream, your professional dream is trapped, there is also a personal dream that is trapped. There is a racket that we keep telling ourselves and everything that we do. We are the same person. We are the same person, whether we're expressing leadership at work or leadership over our life. We're the same person. The dream trap is a symptom that we're trapping our own dream if we know what our dream is. A lot of people don't know what their dream is, but they keep repeating a certain pattern that is upsetting them, and they have a certain record about it. So this is where they have to catch themselves. And I know someone whose record is that it's always the fault of somebody else who did this to me. Someone, not the circumstance, even someone. And this is by itself is a record of victimhood that is going to create dream traps. It's going to create love traps. It's going to relationship traps. It's going to create so many traps in our life. So yes, there is a value because it's a point of entry, and people are focused on their jobs and profession. And in most of the organizations, you have appraisals, you have evaluations, you have performance evaluations, you have metrics, KPI to check your work. So, and I'm not saying when you're growing something and the KPIs are not there and you keep not getting it, maybe the project is not there as well. But I'm saying when you notice a certain pattern that is repeating itself over and over and over again, then you realize that you're in a dream trap. And recognizing that and becoming aware of it would force someone to look inside. And forcing us to look inside and becoming aware of what we are creating in our life has a great value, because then we're developing a growth mindset. We're developing, oh wow, look what happens, another possibility, another potential of us where we can express ourselves differently in the world and get different results and leap beyond success.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, the dream trap, I'm starting to see how, while it can stop us and hold us back for a while, that aha moment when you realize you're in one and you start to realize how to get yourself out, it's so great. Because once you've been through that process too, just like with you, Micheline, you can then guide other people as well. And so there's value in that, right? Like there's good things in the bad, right? And there's bad things in the good. It's like this law of contrast, law of polarity, I think it's called, right? So it's important to just embrace it. And so it's very, very interesting to think about. So again, if you're listening here to us today, chat about this. If you want to mention in the comments any realizations that you've had, that would be great. We'd love to hear it. so that we know that this is resonating and making a difference for you. But also, your story could make a difference in someone's life. So if you feel like sharing, we invite you to do that. Please, 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 please do. Um, let's talk a second. Let's shift gears just slightly, just for a minute, but not too far, because we're still talking about dreams. How do we know if a dream is actually meant for us, Micheline? Like, if it's truly meant for us, if it's our destiny or what have you, right? Like, how do we know? How do we know?
That's another very great question here. If you have a dream, it's your dream. It's meant for you at that particular moment in your life. Even if it's not your destination, even if it's not your long-term vision or your mission in life, but you're longing to accomplish something, it means that you have a certain impulse from within that is telling you, go for it, go for it. This is my dream. This is what I want. This is what, and probably your dream is so materialistic, and the minute you get it, I mean, you're happy with it for a day or two, and then you move to the next thing. My dream is to get this absolutely beautiful house, and then you get this beautiful house, and then, oh, this is not really what I wanted. It's like when I wanted to own my own chain of long-term care. I wanted it so badly because I saw how successful I was, like leading and managing maybe 16, 19 of those for other people, and I wanted it for me. But then when I had it after a few years, it wasn't what made me happy. What made me happy was when I was really working with the team and we were creating something different for the patients and long-term care patients and residents. And I didn't realize this in the beginning. See, my dream was to own, for me, to be wealthy, to own my own long-term care, to be successful, which is all of us do at a certain point, and we need to go there because the road of success is also chop the wood, do it yourself, get to that success, get to that, But what I did not realize that it did not mean anything for me to own these. It was an ego trip. I wanted to own. I wanted to say that I'm an owner of a business. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm successful. But when I realized that no, there's something bigger than that is keeping me going, that's making me excited and waking up every day in the morning looking forward for my day. It was working with my team in order to create the best we could for our long-term patients there. And this had to do with my mission. Very many times you have an impulse from within that prepares you to what I call purpose, which is the contribution of your passion to the world, right? So whatever we had an impulse and a dream to accomplish, to do, is probably preparing you for something bigger in your life. So don't turn it down. Just go for it. But if something within you is not allowing you to go for it, despite it being a dream of yours, and that something within you is an interference, is a stumbling block, then do it anyway.
It's great. I love how our dreams lead us to the next path, right? Like we're on our path, whatever our path is in our life, and the choices that we make, the decisions that we make, the desires that we have ultimately lead us forward. And I think it's important, as you have, to just follow that path and see where it leads you. And it may not lead you where you think it's going to lead you, right? But it might lead you even somewhere better. And you need to have that experience in order to really figure it out and discover what's really going to light you up, right? Which is what you just described. And I love that has been your path, Micheline. I love that. That's partially why we're together today, why we're doing this podcast, why you wrote this incredible book, why you have a lot of your online course, all the work that you're doing now. It's come from everything that you've done in the past, and you've had all these realizations. And I think that's important for everyone who's listening today to, give yourself the permission to have these experiences and then have your own realizations and then see where the path leads you. And I love how, Micheline, how your leap process, it guides people into all of that. I'm a big believer that a lot of people in the world, myself included for a long time, I think we're all guilty of it to some extent, right? And hopefully we kind of have the realization somewhere. But we're seeking this thing, this goal, this whatever that's going to fulfill us. And when we get that goal, when we create that success, it may or may not actually really fulfill us, right? So that's why I love the leap process, is because uh, even like if you're just starting out on a journey, or if you're midway, or if you're there and be like, I'm still kind of feeling empty, or whatever that feeling is for you, it helps you realize what's really important to you, what's your real innate passion, not just what you think on the surface is your innate passion, but what's really your innate passion, right? Like when you discover that, you create your personal mission statement, and then you learn the other tools from the leap process. You can execute on everything. You can align your mindset and program your emotions. And it's just wonderful because then you don't end up at the top of this mountain or at the top of this building or ladder or whatever metaphor you want to use, and feel like, oh man, this wasn't it, right? You're using conscious awareness with every step that you take. And yes, you may still have failures, and yes, you could still take a couple of wrong turns, but it's all in alignment with what's really truly important to you. So thank you for creating the leap process. And then again, for all of you listening out there, I encourage you to get Micheline's book or sign up for an online course and really dive in and see what's really waiting there for you. Because whether you're aware of exactly where you want to go or not, there's ways, there's help. I've been one of these people who tries to do everything on my own perpetually, right? That they maybe a form of my own dream trap, and I found great value in taking the wisdom and the tools from Micheline and people like you that will actually help make the journey easier and much more pleasurable. So
It's very true, Trace. Very well said. That we can't do it alone. I mean, you can do things alone, but to have fun and to contribute what you do best, why do it alone? I mean, the pleasure is also in the contribution and the interaction, in knowing that someone benefited from what you're creating. This is where your purpose comes alive. You feel no matter what failure is on the way, no matter what bad day you have, and no matter what the circumstances have for you beyond your control, that at least what you're controlling is your happiness about what you're creating in your life beyond the circumstances. So that's what keeps me going. This is what keeps people going when they contribute, when they serve other human beings with what they're creating, even if they don't say it out loud, and they don't say like, yeah, we're not the Mother Teresa of the world. No one is asking you to be the Mother Teresa of the world. But by you contributing or serving, this is where your fulfillment happens. Even if you do it for you, not for the other person, this is how you become fulfilled beyond your own success.
yeah, it's a way of being, right? It's not a place that you get to or an achievement that you have or anything like that. It's a way of being. So when you carry this way of being with you, that's in joy and fulfillment, right? Then it's just no matter what's happening in your life or in your business or career, um, you have this like uh, life is good. This feels good, no matter what might be happening, right? You can kind of be peaceful and present and just joyful and know that there's nothing missing. You're whole and complete.
Right. You're connected to something bigger than you. It doesn't have to be that you're a believer or not, but you're connected to
Yeah.
something bigger than you. This is what keeps people happy and fulfilled, to be connected. And by contributing or serving another person, you're connecting to someone else than only your own field. You're connecting to something else. You're giving to something, to someone else. And this is the joy, even for people who do not recognize this. Like you see movies sometimes. I don't want to contribute, and I'm becoming bitter, and I'm drinking like all day and all evening and then all night, and I'm, you know, withdrawn,
Yeah.
and then you're at your deathbed, and then you have a list of
Yeah.
regrets.
That's a really good point, Micheline. For those of you listening, take a moment to stop and think. Just ask yourself the question: do I have any regrets right now based upon what I've done in my past, or more importantly than your past, the way you're living now, right? Because right now, if there's any regrets about what you're doing right now, like I think it was Steve Jobs who said, if you wake up, you look yourself in the mirror, and you don't want to do what you're about to do for too many days in a row, it's time for a change, right? Like what's happening? Is that happening for you right now? And if so, you have the power in this moment to do something about it. So life, again, death and taxes, right? they're both inevitable. So when that day comes where you move on to the next life or whatever your beliefs might be, are you going to look back with regret? And if based upon what's happening right now, and if the answer is yes, then you have the opportunity right now to do something about it, to make a change. Yeah. And don't let the dream trap hold you back, right? Get out of it. Just go for it. Just do it. Look at where these beliefs, these limiting beliefs, has been coming from about not being enough. And it's interesting because it could be generational too. That belief could be a pattern that is recurring, that's been going on for a long time in your family, right? It might not even be a new thing that you've just adapted from your lifetime. But regardless of that, I'd say you know ditch it and put it aside. Easier said than done. That's why there's people like you, Micheline, and why you have great tools. But life is so much more free um, and more pleasurable when you do. So,
Yeah. And Trace, I would love to hear from our audience if what is it that they liked about what we've just discussed, and if something helped them, and where do they want us to go in our next episode and discuss that could help them, in the future. Um, I want to emphasize that whatever we're doing it because we want to connect, and we want to create this bigger than us, you know, uh, connection, not only about us, but also about what the audience needs. So we feel that whatever we're doing is impacting positively the people around us. So I would encourage our audience to comment, ask questions, tell us what they loved, what helped them, what didn't help them, even, and to be able for us to adjust if they want more of this, to encourage them to subscribe and like. And I think on my website, michelinnader.com, they could also download some free content or meditation, or some from time to time free courses, right? And that will hopefully help them. And I would like to hear from you.
amen. Thank you, Micheline, for the invitation. Yes, for everyone listening, please engage with us. Whatever platform you're listening on or watching on, comments are great. If you want to email us, info@michelinnader.com. Go to michelinnader.com and to the website where you can download free tools, and you can find Micheline's books and also online programs, and everything that we have so far to serve you is there. But I love, Micheline, your commitment to serving everyone and making sure that we check in with everyone to tell us, hey, this is what we need, right? Like, please do be vocal and tell us, and we'll create content because we're here for you. It's a privilege. I feel blessed to be here with you, Micheline, and to be with you as our audience. You're incredible. So thank you for listening today. Encouraging you to,
Thank you.
escape the dream traps if you're in one, or if you're in multiple, even, right? We can have multiple dream traps, I think, as well, happening inside. So Hopefully, we've been able to help you with that today, and just appreciate you being here and look forward to our next time together. Thank you, and thank you, Micheline, very much.
Thank you, Trace. Thank you, everyone.